Mr. Gates, I would like to ask you two questions. The first one is concerning the coordination between the different donors in the developing countries. You are working with your foundation together sometimes with some other international donors. Do you see any room for improvement of this coordination, being at the stage of planning the development aid or the stage of implementation or post-aid monitoring? And the second is, I mean, you have been one of the driving forces changing the life of the people with technologies. Do you think that in the poorest countries where you are working with your foundation, technologies would come soon in order to change lives there? Thank
you. In terms of meritocracy, you know, it's interesting. Some countries should try sending the children and grandchildren of their 1900 Olympic team to the Olympics and see how they do, and see whether the inherited approach is able to compete with the meritocratic approach. You know, I think the results would be quite clear. I also think the history of whether you do your children a favor by giving them large wealth is pretty clearly that it is not a favor even to the recipient, although they may not feel that way immediately. In terms of technology and education, yes, I'm very optimistic about that. That is the one part of our foundation that right now is focused on the United States, which is piloting the use of technology in education. And if we're successful with that, which we're not yet, then I hope it'll have a worldwide benefit. If you want to get a glimpse of the future of education, there's a website, khanconacademy.org, I'd encourage you to look at, where the great lectures and quizzes are being put up so that a student can take them directly, and yet a teacher or a parent can watch what they're doing, how they're doing, and help them along. So I think there's a lot of promise there, but it's not yet known how we mix classroom learning and technologically enabled out of classroom learning to get the right motivation for all the students. But there is a lot of investment, and that has a lot of promise. In terms of the history of aid, I completely agree with what you said. A lot of aid historically was not given expecting it to improve human lives. And so unfortunately now, where we're mostly justifying our aid by saying, yes, vaccines save lives, vaccines allow kids to grow up fully mentally developed, we're getting compared to Cold War type aid policies that were about buying friendships. And we have to admit, even today, a lot of aid is not, when you make the grant, you don't say, this grant will do this, raise the number of vaccines. This grant will raise the income of the farmers. A lot of it's very traditional type giving, and given through governments that are not using it in the right way. But some aid today, a substantial portion, including a lot of the high-impact health and agriculture aid, is different. And so we have to both improve, we have to have clear goals, and we have to communicate what's gone well, because most of these people who attack aid kind of attack it in a blanket way. What we need is people who are serious about saying, which aid are you criticizing? You can't really criticize vaccines, honest. You can't criticize famine aid. You can criticize budgetary support aid. And so, you know, I agree with that. In terms of coordination of donors, the complexity of the aid system is higher than you'd like. And that's why things like Global Fund and Gavi stand out, because they manage to unify together everything about those diseases and bring in real experts and move very, very quickly. And everybody realized, okay, we'll work with them. On a lot of issues like agriculture, education, there are a lot of different actors, If you go into a poor country and you look at the number of people there, it's still very large. So I think we can tune that. I don't think it's realistic to ever get a perfectly simple system. And some of the diversity is valuable because someone may find a better approach, and ideally the other people's learn from them. As far as technology goes, in a sense, if you invent a new seed, and the scientists doing that use the internet and new technologies, that is technology helping poor people. If you invent a new vaccine, a malaria vaccine, using the internet, that is technology helping poor people. In terms of direct benefit, absolutely the idea that people are going to have cell phones over time should mean that checking about vaccines and getting health advice and agricultural advice and organizing women's groups or making financial transactions very low cost. Digital technologies will play a role there, but we have to be very cautious because the cost, the complexity, the coverage, there's been a lot of over-optimism in that area. So we fund a lot, but I wouldn't say there's been the breakthrough yet. Over the next 5 years, I think we'll see some breakthroughs, and over the next 10 years, some pretty big breakthroughs, including things like digital money that will allow these poor countries who have terrible taxation systems, will allow them to run actually very effective taxation systems.